Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. Uh, this is Anne. I am going to start where I left off with my last vlog, and that is where I was referred from my neurologist to, uh, I was supposed to go to either Milwaukee or Michigan to follow up with a migraine doctor. The travel time was so extended that I chose to follow up with my family doctor instead. The trip to Milwaukee is like a 2 hour, 2.5 hour trip for us. Um, so we chose not to do that. There were several pain blockers that my doctor went and tried me on. One of them was verapamil, which is for high blood pressure. Found that my heart would race up to 150 beats per minute. And when I told my doctor about that, she said, "That's impossible. Your heart rate gets slowed by verapamil." And I said, "Well, not me. Usually, if there are any kind of side effects that I experience, they're in the 1%. Um, so she went and proceeded to try me on gabapentin. Now, gabapentin is an anticonvulsant, and some of the side effects for it are confusion and memory loss. The memory loss got so bad that I went to a psychologist to have Alzheimer testing done. And I need to remind you that I was still working. Um, the test I found was very confusing and difficult for me. I had a hard time with word associations, trying to find the line of thinking. Um, and then when I received my results back, he stated that, well, he didn't know what my previous score was, but my IQ had dropped by 20 points. It made me feel stupid, of course. So I asked to have that changed also. My family doctor also tried me on steroids. She had given me a couple rounds of steroids. Plus, I had gotten a shoulder injection for bursitis, all within 3 months. And that did a real number on me. I was at work one day and was working with a patient who had hemorrhaged. This was after she had a baby. I worked in OB, and it stressed me out so bad. I had to chart yet after the situation, and I went home just exhausted. Woke up the next morning and I was a different person, and I was anxious and crying, and my husband took me to the doctor to try to figure out what's going on. She ordered a lab test to check my adrenal function and found that I had very low levels of cortisol, which is a hormone that the adrenals secrete. So you could almost call it a nervous breakdown. I had to leave work for a few weeks, and during that time, my adrenal function did slowly return, but it was a process. I was off for a good 6 weeks, and when that leave time was done, I discussed it with my husband and chose to quit work, to take an early retirement, because it was just too much for me. I could not organize myself with my headaches continuing. I could not think clearly, which you probably have noticed whenever you have migraines, that the clarity isn't there. So I did end up going to Milwaukee to a migraine specialist there. We were not impressed by the friendliness of the staff. When we got there, the receptionist was very cold. The nursing personnel, for the most part, including the doctor, well, no, let me back on that. Not necessarily the doctor, but the nursing staff there were cold and impersonal. The doctor herself tried to convince me that she was sympathetic with my plight because her husband gets migraines. So her her regimen was to place me on Metrogen, which is a vasoconstrictor. It constricts your blood vessels. And we used that in OB a lot for people that had hemorrhages. So she placed me on that for 3 months, and they would be on 3 months and off for a month. Plus, she started with a Botox injection, which really is a series of injections where they inject around your head, back your neck. Things went all right with the Metrogen on, but once she took me off that month, then all hell broke loose, and I was having constant migraines, and ended up in the ER a couple of times. I tried calling the nurse practitioner to find out what to do, and she was on vacation, so I asked if I could speak to the doctor, and she was on vacation. That did not impress me. The continuity of care was not there. What I should have had done was she should have placed me on a pain blocker, at least for that month that I was off the Metrogen. Obviously, they thought that they could not help me out, and so they told me to go to Diamond Clinic, which is a migraine clinic in Chicago. The communication there was not very good. I felt that they were rejecting us as a patient, rather than saying, we can't help you anymore. You need to move on. I asked, though, if they could give me one more round of Botox treatment so I wouldn't have to run all the way to Chicago to get that done. And they said yes, but then when I scheduled to have it done, they said they wouldn't do it, so I was lied to. I wanted to move on to my chiropractic experience. I went to get treatment from a chiropractor who was new out of school, I believe. And when I interviewed with him, he thought that I was an interesting case, which should have perked up my ears then and made me run the other direction. But anyway, when I would go to see him after I would leave, maybe half an hour after I'd leave, I would get terrible headache and neck pain to the point of I would be crying. And that happened to me at least once at work, where I just was in such pain. Well, after 7 treatments, I decided he wasn't helping me, obviously, and so I was referred by a friend to another chiropractor in town who uses what they call biocranial stretch, where not only did he do his manipulation, but he would also stretch my neck. Felt like a giraffe afterwards, but it did help with my neck pain, not so much the migraine pain. Excuse me, kitty, just a minute. So I am going to stop here, and next week I will tell you about my situation with working with Diamond Clinic. Thank you for joining me, and we will talk to you again. Bye now.